and our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth in the flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
I'm your dirty rosary, Mike.
And is this where we just pause and we wait for people to interject? But alas, there is no one. Then there was two. We are Coltonless, we are Jill-less. It is just the gruesome twosome now.
For the first time in a very long time.
Before Colton was on the podcast, I think. Mm-hmm. I think I said it was either, at first I thought it was Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, but I think Strange Days was after that.
Strange Days was after that because we recorded Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker when I was at my old apartment.
Yes.
And we recorded Strange Days shortly after I moved here.
Yeah, so there you go. That's how long.
So it was still like during COVID time, but it was a bit later.
That's like 4 years ago, maybe?
It was definitely 3 years ago, if not 4.
Yeah. So it's been a while, but yes, Colton's still busy at work, and I know he had some house issues, some sewage issues, and Jill is at a wedding, celebrating. So I believe, I'm not 100% sure, I only follow through the Instagram stories, but I believe she's at the wedding of Nicole, who we had on the podcast.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, hopefully she's enjoying herself. But me and Mike, we knew we were up to the task. We were like, we can handle this.
Yes, we will make up for the people who are notably absent during Pride Month recording. ...
Shaking our fists at you, Colton and Jill.
Just saying.
I mean, I feel like next episode, we're going to have to give Jill a lot of shit, because Jill tried to talk a lot of shit to Colton last episode, and then she turns around and just does the same thing.
Yep, how dare she have a life.
That is not acceptable around here. But anyway, let's get into our second and last episode of this glorious Pride Month. Hopefully Pride Month's been treating everybody wonderfully. But you know where we're going to start, what we've been consuming, what we've been listening to, what we've been reading, listen to, watching, all that good stuff. Mike, you're the only person I can throw this to. So, what have you been consuming?
Wow, so unexpected. Okay, what have I been up to? So I've been reading a couple of things, and I watched a couple movies, not as many as I would normally like to, but it's one of those months.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been one of those months for like the last 3 months, but it is what it is. So I've actually been reading 2 books, partially because they're really good, and partially because I'm an extremely slow reader. So I'm reading a physical book and listening to an audiobook. So I'll get into that first. The book that I'm reading is really good. They're both Pride Month themed, by the way, just so you know.
Nice.
Of course. So the first one is very horror themed. It's Peter Mara's, I guess technically it's an academic film studies book, but it's quite accessible for an academic press book, and it's very in our wheelhouse row, and it's called Queer Slashers, and it's about, as you may have guessed, slasher movies with a queer angle, reading through that lens. And it's really good so far, and actually hilariously we're doing a John Waters movie today, and one of the chapters is on Christmas horror movies, and movies that have Christmas elements in them, and there's a fair bit of that chapter devoted to a John Waters movie that's 2 after this, so that was really interesting. Yeah. That might have even been why, because I had a short list last episode of what I wanted my pick to be, and I think that might have influenced me putting multiple Maniacs on the short list. But I mean, it's John Waters, obviously, like that's always going to be an option. So yeah, that book so far, excellent. I really recommend it if you are into like film studies books or anything to do with like horror and like queer theory and things like that. Like I said, it's really accessible, and academic books are usually pretty expensive. This one's only like, it's actually very reasonably priced. It was like $36 Canadian, which is like fine for a paperback. There have been, film studies books that I've wanted to order that literally were $80 for
they can be
like
pricey.
100. Yeah, for like a paperback that's like 80 pages. I'm like, I get that it's a small press, but also go fuck yourself. Like, anyway, PDF, download it. So I'm really enjoying that, and slightly less pertinent to our purposes on this podcast, but very extremely pertinent to Pride Month, is a brand new book, actually. And I do actually have a copy of this book, but I tried out the audiobook, and the author reads it, and his reading is actually really good, so I decided that I'd rather listen to him read it. And it's called Dining Out by Eric Piepenberg.
Okay.
And he's like a food writer and a journalist.
All right.
Yeah, this is the cover of it here, Rose. And the subtitle is First Dates, Defiant Nights, and Last Call Disco Fries at America's Gay Restaurants. And it's like this odyssey of like the last 100 years all across America of different gay bars or clubs that serve food, and how that like is enmeshed in like the culture of the area. And like gay diners and gay restaurants, anywhere that serves food, and like queer people congregate, and like trans diners and things like that, and the people that run them. And, there's all sorts of stories of like, riots and protests and clashes with cops and stuff like that. And it's really, really interesting. And, he just kind of gives a history of like all these places and, what purposes they've served over the decades, in like the 70s when people would be like just going to a bathhouse and like fucking all night and then having like a Salisbury steak before going home and stuff like that. And the author reads it, and it's actually like really wonderful, because I've read listened to a couple audiobooks lately that the authors have read, and they have not been very good. So yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful book, and he does an excellent job of narrating it. So again, recommend it if you're looking for like a good brand spanking new Pride Month read, or if you're interested in food or restaurants or like cultural history, any of that stuff. So that's kind of like what I've been reading. I've been grinding all my video games with the battle passes, so I'm not even going to go there. Unfortunately, I've been trying to catch up on this season of awful TV of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I got to have my trash like when I go to bed, so that's been kind of like eating up my like hour here and hour there. And as for movies, I did all rewatches. now that I look at it, because I only watched 2 movies, actually 3 movies in the last 2 weeks. One of them was, I don't know if you've seen this, Ro. I think you would really, really enjoy it if you haven't. It's Robert Altman's 3 Women.
No, I don't think I have.
Oh my God, it is amazing. It's from 1977. Criterion put out a Blu-ray of it, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago, and it's on the Criterion channel.
Okay.
Literally like 5-star banger movie. It stars Sissy Spacek and Shelley Duvall.
Ooh,
and a bunch of other really cool people from the 70s. And it's kind of one of these like personality swap type movies where Sissy Spacek like goes to work with Shelley Duvall, and Shelley Duvall's this like really deluded like social butterfly at work, and like she thinks she's, Mary Tyler Moore or whatever, and she's really not. But like Sissy Spacek's character is like kind of falls in love with her, and yeah, she gets in an accident and they kind of like swap personalities, and it's really wild.
Okay.
It's a beautiful movie. Like, you need to see it. It's kind of got Bergman persona undertones and things like that. Just brilliant. And I also rewatched in 4K one of our favorites, Dario Argento.
Oh, yes.
His first movie, his debut, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Haven't seen it in a few years. It's, kind of more of a straightforward giallo. It doesn't yet have the, because it's his first movie, it doesn't have that, visual flair. It's obviously a beautifully shot movie and has all these, striking set pieces, but it's kind of like him, workshopping his themes, which, of course, we love, and the 4K looks beautiful. And the last movie I watched was also a 4K rewatch, and it was the limited edition, amazing, beautiful Arrow 4K set of, again, one of our favorites, one of original podcast Pride picks, Al Pacino in Cruising.
Oh, yes. I need to get my hand on this still. I haven't bought it.
It's... Okay, so first of all, the movie looks stunning. It's one of the best looking 4K discs I have. And the limited edition set, which you really need to spring for, Ro, it's beautiful. It comes with a slip cover. It's like a box.
Yeah.
With the regular, disc case inside of it, plus a print of the new artwork that they did for it, which was done by Drusilla Adeline, who is not only one of my favorite cover designers, she does a lot of Criterion and Arrow, but she also hosts one of my favorite horror podcasts, Bloodhouse, so shout out, we love Bloodhouse. And there's this stunning book in it too.
Yeah.
The paper is insane, it's beautifully put together, it's got photos and essays. But Ro, you were talking about the slipcover on your Blu-ray getting torn.
Yeah.
I need to tell you that the slipcover on the Cruising set, it's really subtle, but when you take it out of the plastic and kind of look at it close and run your hand over it, it's all black with a little, it's just Al Pacino's silhouette in white and Cruising in striking white letters. Bro, it's textured like leather.
Oh, leather daddy.
Very subtly like leather. I was I wish it smelled like leather too. I was just I want to
They knew what people wanted when they were buying Cruising.
Oh my God, listen, and when I tell you there's two things that would have made this set better. One would have been a soundtrack CD.
Yeah.
And the other would have been a bottle of poppers.
I was going to say...
all copies of Cruising should come with a bottle of poppers.
Or a handkerchief.
Or a handkerchief, yes. Yellow, of course.
I'm jealous.
Just
I'm very jealous.
poppers, don't do it. Wink, wink. But yeah, that's pretty much been my couple of weeks in art.
Nice.
What about you? What have you been
I've watched a couple
putting your eyeballs on and poring over and obsessing with?
Not as much as normal, so I guess that's kind of sad where there's only two of us, but you'll get through this section quickly if you're a listener, I guess. So I guess the first thing I'll say I watched, because people were kind of expecting it, was a Now Slaying episode on dangerous animals. I went and saw it in the theater. Unfortunately, I don't think it's happening. Just, I think Colton had some house issues, some work issues. We were going to do it last week. Couldn't do it. We were going to do it this week. Couldn't get the schedules lined up to do it. So that might just be a pass. But don't worry. There'll be Now Slaying's coming. I think the next big thing, is what? I think 28 years later is coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah, I think that's next week, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. So I saw that. I'm just looking through the list here okay, this is where I stopped last week. So I did get a chance to check out Mickey 17 because I hadn't seen that in the theater. That's nice. Bong Joon-ho's newest movie, obviously with my leather daddy, Robert Pattinson. And I thought it was all right. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was an interesting kind of comedy, science fiction, play on things. It definitely has Bon Ho's humor in it and stuff. But I think I just was I just wanted more from it. I felt it was too it wasn't funny enough to be a full-out comedy, and I didn't find it sci-fi enough to be a full-out sci-fi. So I kind of just wish both of those were kind of cranked up a little more than they actually were. And then I also watched Bill Burr, Drop Dead Years. So this is Bill Burr's new stand-up special. It's on Disney Plus. Obviously, everyone's going crazy over some Bill Burr since he's been very vocal against Elon Musk and company and all that kind of stuff. And I thought this was also, it was all right. I've seen Bill Burr be funnier. If you're kind of going in expecting him hating on Trump and Elon and all that, that's not what this is. Most of it is just about getting older and, old man yelling at clouds and just talking about how people are stupid, just very Bill Burr stuff. And I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great, but it was good. One thing I did see that I thought was absolutely incredible, I gave it 5 stars, is for the first time ever, I watched The King of Comedy by Martin Scorsese, starring Robert De Niro. Obviously the film that, the not the sequel, but the original Joker film is based on. I knew people were like, oh, if you like Joker, you should really watch The King of Comedy. And, I read the synopsis. I'm like, oh yeah, it sounds a similar story. But then when you watch King of Comedy, you're like, oh, Joker is literally just this movie. That's what it is. Except this movie, I think, is better than Joker.
Of course.
Yeah.
How could it not be?
This is an all-time Martin Scorsese, all-time Robert De Niro performance for me. I'm so used to seeing Robert De Niro just in Scorsese gangster movies, and then of course in any other gangster movie. And I even think of something like Meet the Fockers, where he's not playing a gangster, but he's still kind of giving that persona of tough guy, intimidation guy, where this is he's just really pathetic in this. And like I said, he's this delusional wannabe comic that this movie's full of hallucinations, and he's obsessed with this talk show host because he wants to be on the talk show. He really wants to be the guy. The talk show host is played by Jerry Lewis. It's just, this is so good. And it's, like I said, you always associate not just De Niro, but Scorsese with gangster movies. And this is still has a crime aspect to it, but it's not like a mafia movie. And you're like, oh yeah, Scorsese, just flexing.
I actually urge you to watch another Scorsese Robert De Niro movie.
Yeah.
If you want that change of pace, New York.
New York. It is next on my list.
Yeah.
To watch.
With, literally EGOT Queen of the Universe, Liza Minnelli.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, you really should. I actually bought the DVD when I was, I don't know how old, at, I don't know if it was Walmart or the grocery. It was probably the grocery store.
Nice.
For $5 in a bin. And I was like, oh, cool. I never heard of this Scorsese movie, but I love Liza Minnelli and Robert De Niro.
I miss
and
the days that you could buy stuff in the bins. I remember, it wasn't even that long ago. I don't know, what would it be now? 7 years when I first moved to Toronto, our grocery store next to us had one of those bins, and I remember I bought it's a horror movie I bought called Resolution. I don't know if anyone listening has seen that. It's kind of like an indie one, and they kind of made a pseudo sequel called The Endless, and it was about cults and time travel, but it was in a bin for $5. I think I also bought Outpost, one of those Nazi zombie movies, $5. Shout out to the grocery stores.
Yeah, it's there that those bins are for anybody who did not grow up with the bins, I truly feel bad for you, because how the fuck do you find random ass shit?
And I find now, if you find somewhere even Walmart, some Walmarts will have the bins the $5 bins, but I find like it's just, it's stuff they're overstocked on. And
yeah,
DVDs.
it's 5 titles that they have 50 copies of. And some Walmarts don't even have any media anymore. Like the one by my house doesn't have any anymore.
Yeah,
like
that's the sad reality of it. But yeah, I miss like when I was a teenager, I've said before on the podcast, like I used to work for Zellers, but Zellers used to have like 2 or 3 movie bins. Like I remember buying all of the Nightmare on Elm Streets on DVD because they came in like duo packs, so like 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, like, and then you would buy them for like, I don't even think they were $5. I think they were like $3 back then.
Yeah, dirt cheap.
But yeah, like you said, and these bins would just have like random old stuff that you've never heard of. And you were like, sweet, for like $3, I'll buy that. Like $5, yeah, I'll buy that. And I also, like you, that's how I used to find random movies I've never heard of that now I cherish in my older age. But speaking of people in their older age, to keep it in line, so I also saw The Alto Knights, which came out earlier this year. This is Robert De Niro in a dual role. Where he plays both Frank Costello and Vito Genovese, or whoever was the guy that shot him. Basically, these were 2 like mafia union figures.
Shocker. Like you just said, you're like a De Niro movie that isn't like about the mob.
And this was not good. So it's written by the same guy that wrote Goodfellas, like the novel that the movie's based on. So this is basically another novel he wrote. It's directed by Barry Levinson, who, like Barry Levinson, has done stuff I like. Toys.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Good Morning Vietnam, Wag the Dog, Sleepers, Rain Man.
Okay, was this a like comedic type movie? Because
no, this was a true crime done terribly wrong. I've kind of deep dived because it was so bad, like listened to podcasts, read stuff. And apparently this is 100% one of those things where like Warner Brothers, it was like, I'm just helping my friend and giving him $20 million or however much $1 million to make this movie. And it was just basically like, oh, you're my buddy. We're going to give you this money to make this movie. It's not good. It's like exposition dumps for like 10 minutes. And it's not like it'll be someone talking and then you're getting like news footage from the actual incidents, and it seems more like a badly produced documentary on Netflix than a movie. So much of this movie is just explaining who these 2 guys are, what their connection is, why they are where they are, because this isn't starting you off when they're a kid. This isn't like a 3-hour epic like Goodfellas. It's only 2 hours long, and it's starting you off when these guys are old men. And so it's just...
So you're playing catch up.
You're playing catch up, and it's like, Frank Costello, like, these guys have all been done in other movies before, like, better. De Niro's, like, probably the best part of it. He plays both the main leads, and he kind of kills it on both. He actually looks...
That's so weird. I'm sorry.
The makeup job on him to separate who he is, like, he actually looks like the people when you look at pictures of them.
Is there a purpose to him doing 2 roles?
No, not really.
They just wanted to flex, like De Niro
from what I read, they had hired him, I think, for the Frank Costello role, and I think the goal was for the Vito role, it was supposed to be Joe Pesci. It's a very Joe Pesci character, like very, fuck me, fuck you character. And I'm assuming that just didn't work.
Is Joe Pesci in movies anymore? I feel like I haven't seen him in
I think The Irishman is the last thing he really did. Okay. But yeah, basically my guess is Pesci was like, no, I don't really... I mean, Pesci's kind of been on the record that I was surprised he did The Irishman. Like, he didn't really want to revisit these, like, mafia gangster movies. And apparently Robert De Niro was like, I want to do both. If I'm going to do this movie, I want to play both guys. Because they're kind of this yin and this yang. One guy's, like, trying to be legitimate. One guy's this, like, fuck you, Joe Pesci character.
That just seems, like, too on the nose. Like... you know?
Yeah, and he was really good, but I mean, the rest of this cast is just, you know, like, he's the biggest name in it. It does have Catherine Narducci. That's who I'm thinking of. She's from The Sopranos. I think she played, all right, this is where I'm coming out. I've never fully watched The Sopranos. I do like the show. I suck at watching TV.
Girl, I saw 2 episodes.
But I know she played, like, whoever Tony's right-hand man was. It was, like, his girlfriend or his wife. Okay. So she's, like, one of the leads. She's in it. That's who I was thinking of. But, yeah, it's just most of the casting is not very good. It's just kind of like... The budget went to De Niro. That's where the budget went. And then it was like, let's fill in with people that haven't worked in a long time. So anyway, this is bad. This was like not worth the watch. Stay away from it. So I also watched The Accountant 2. So you probably should have saw that coming because I saw The Accountant 1 last time we talked. And it was so I could see The Accountant 2. And unfortunately, this wasn't as bad as like Alto Nights, but I didn't really enjoy this one very much more. I kind of liked The Accountant 1. I thought it was kind of interesting. I thought Ben Affleck was interesting playing this like autistic accountant that also murders people. And, you know, I'm a fan of John Berthnall. I think he's very charming in his roles. I mean, John Berthnall plays John Berthnall. Like, he just does the same character. It's like, if you've seen The Punisher, you've seen John Berthnall in all of his roles. Yeah. Or I guess like Shane from The Walking Dead. Like... Mm-hmm. And this movie, basically, like, I remember the trailers. Like, the trailers are like, they're back. The brothers are back. They're like, except, you know, the first movie, Berthnall kind of is slowly introduced into the movie because he's kind of like the villain of the first movie. This one, they're teaming up. We're ready. Well, Berthnall doesn't come in till like an hour plus into this movie. And this movie is just like long and boring. There's nowhere near the action of the first one. It's not near as interesting as the first one. And then, yeah, they basically get to, you know, the hour and 20-minute mark when Berthnall comes in. And then Berthnall's like, I got to carry this entire movie on my back for the rest of the time. Ben Affleck is just kind of, it's like a dead performance. Like, this is just like, I did it for money. Berthnall looks like he's having a riot in this. He gets to be way more out there. Like, they have lots of, like, funny kind of scenes for him to do to play up the humor. But, yeah, this just, it's just kind of like, if you watch this on streaming, you wouldn't be mad. But, like, I'm sure anyone that saw this in theater would not be impressed at all.
And, I mean, that's the, like, curse of... I'm going to be the leading man, is that, unfortunately, 90% of the time, that is the most boring role in the fucking movie.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what else did I watch? So, I only watched 3 other things. So, the first one will be short because it was short. It was only about 5 minutes long. I watched Connor O'Malley's new short. Called Slugs. It's on his YouTube. I've talked about Connor O'Malley before. He's done, he did a mockumentary called Rap World that I really enjoyed. That was about like 20-something like dirtbags from small rural town that like think they're rappers.
Sound familiar. Yeah.
Super funny. Most people know him from the Tim Robinson shows, Detroiters, or I Think You Should Leave Now. He works closely with Tim Robinson. And yeah, this is another, it's 5 minutes long. Where it's 5 minutes, I can't really say much because it'll spoil it, but go on YouTube, I got a chuckle out of it. I like everything he does. It's really weird. I always say, him and Tim Robinson, like, they remind me of, like, when we were growing up, like the Adult Swim kind of stuff we'd get where it's just like really bizarre and out there and just like half the time you didn't know what was going on. So I watched that. It was really funny. The next thing I watched, I'm not going to say I'm proud that I watched it. I just kind of was looking for something to watch. So I don't know if anyone remembers episodes ago, months ago, I went on this kick where I had been watching like Scary Movie, but then I went to like all the other really bad ones, like superhero
Shriek
movie.
If You Know What I Did Last Halloween.
Yeah, disaster movie, like all this stuff. So I realized I missed one when I watched them, and that was called Extreme Movie.
What the fuck is that even?
Well, so I was intrigued by this because it's directed by Andrew Jacobson and Adam J. Epstein, and they have only ever directed this movie, but
I was going to say, you said that like I'm supposed to know who the fuck they are.
but they were both writers on Not Another Teen Movie, which to me is like the optimal version
classic,
of these movies. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And then I was looking at like the rest of the crew, the people that wrote on this movie. Well, this movie was written by Will Forte, Adam Sandberg.
Wait, did you mean Sandler?
No, Andy Samberg.
Oh,
Andy
you
Samberg,
said Adam. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Andy Samberg, Jorma Taccone, like the other guys I'll name, basically Lonely Island. The Lonely Island guys and Will Forte wrote this movie. And then like the cast, like Michael Cera is in this. Jamie Kennedy, Matthew Lillard, Frankie Muniz. So I was intrigued. I was like, okay.
I'm just going to say right now, this is already way too many men. I need to hear your thoughts on this.
So it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Were scary movies like an actual story? This reminds me a lot of like Movie 43 or something. This is more just like skits. And if you didn't, I guess, you know, the title Extreme Movie doesn't really tell you what it's making fun of. So this is basically making fun of like raunchy sex comedies.
Okay, I was thinking it would be like making fun of
no,
Jackass
so this is like
making
fun of like, you know, whatever would have been out, like Sex Tape or Euro Trip, or like it's like teen sex movies.
Gotcha.
And you know, like the top guy, like Michael Cera's skit in this isn't very good at all. Jamie Kennedy's is, I mean, it's Jamie Kennedy, but yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Matthew Lillard is barely in it. Matthew Lillard plays himself, and he just has like commercials in between where he like tries to tell you safe sex practices, but then is like being funny, like teaching you how to pretend to put your condom on and trick a girl into thinking it's on. Just like very, this came out in, what did I say, 2008. This is very like 2008 comedy. But you know, other than the other one, like there was a couple parts that I was like, oh yeah, haha. Chris Farley's brother's in it also. Like just a lot of stunt casting like that. I thought it was really funny because I kept seeing this guy and I'm like, who is this guy? Why does he look so familiar? And then I realized it was the main guy from Final Destination 5. And this is like the only other movie that he also was like a star in. So I was like, yeah, that tracks. That tracks what kind of movie this is. So yeah, I watched that. It wasn't a good time. And then the last thing I'll talk about that I saw is I finally saw Friendship, which is the Tim Robinson, Paul Rudd, A24 movie. I was a little worried because my buddy at work saw it and he was like, I didn't find it funny at all. I didn't like this movie at all. And I had that little like inkling where I'm like, it's an A24 movie. There's no way this is just like a straight up comedy. A24 has to do something weird. And it did that. This is... If you're in the Tim Robinson's like absurdist humor, it's all there. But of course, there's like all these layers of weirdness that you'd expect from an A24 movie. I really enjoyed it though. I thought it was super funny. It was super out there. There's a part, hallucination, going on a drug trip where he just goes to the Subway and orders a sub, and as an employee of Subway, I just thought it was super funny. And like I said,
very relatable. You're like, I used to serve that person every night.
Yeah. I thought it really worked for me. And I know it won't work for everybody, but in the music in it, I'm just telling you, Mike, I know Exilia already has been all over the music in the score. It's Mike coded, the music.
Oh, okay.
So I think you'll really enjoy it.
I will look that up.
That is everything I have been watching. So let's get into the main event. So it's another Pride pick. And Mike, why don't you tell the people what we indulged in for this pick and why you chose it?
I love your use of the word indulge. Okay, well, this week, obviously, we are doing Multiple Maniacs, 1970, directed by John Waters, the, one and only, an auteur. this wasn't his first feature, because he did Mondo Trasho before this, but that, like, most people consider this to be his first proper feature length, because Mondo Trasho is, like, weird and, like, you know, doesn't, like, have any dialogue and stuff, so purists probably wouldn't call it his first, but a lot of people consider this to be, like, the first, like, quote-unquote John Waters movie. I chose it because I wanted to do something different, and I mean, we haven't done any John Waters on this show before, because I mean, I know a lot of his movies wouldn't really fall under the umbrella that we usually use for picking movies, but he does have quite a few, because he kind of spoofs on horror tropes and stuff like that. So I just wanted to do something different and kind of fucked up, and I feel like right now in the world there's so much like shit going on and like demands for conformity, especially like in the States and stuff, that I was like, it's Pride Month and maybe we should go with a Pride as a protest pick. And obviously you've seen this movie, you know that it's very countercultural and irreverent and off the wall and just a misfit of a movie. It does not give a fuck. Everybody is getting cut up. So I just thought it was appropriate, you know, right now in 2025. And we just love John Waters. So, like, why not? It's a banger.
Well, with that, why don't we get into the trailer and then we'll be back for the synopsis and first experiences.
Yes, folks, this isn't any cheap X-rated movie or any fifth-rate porno play. This is the show you want. Lady Divine's Cavalcade of Perversions. The sleaziest show on earth. Not actors, not paid imposters, but real, actual filth. Who have been carefully screened in order to present to you the most flagrant violation of natural law known to man.
1970s Multiple Maniacs is written and directed by John Waters, and the synopsis is as follows. The Cavalcade of Perversion, a traveling freak show, acts as a front for Divine, who is out for blood after discovering her lover's affair. So, first experiences, is this our first time seeing it? Or are we already been christened by Mr. John Waters? And I don't really have anyone to bounce it to except for you, Mike. Have you seen Multiple Maniacs before you picked it, or?
I had seen it once when it first, because like I first started getting into John Waters in like the late 90s, early 2000s. I had seen Pecker, which came out in like, I don't know, 99, I want to say, or something. And then gone back and been like, oh my God, this is so good. Like, let me revisit. And, you know, I saw Hairspray and Polyester and, you know, Serial Mom and all those wonderful ones. And I could never find this, which I thought was weird. But like his first couple of movies always seemed to be like, apparently they were, you know, like kind of essentially not meant to be shown. Like they just kind of made them and that was it. Because who the fuck is going to show this in a theater? So it wasn't until they re-released it like, I don't know, 10 or 11 years ago that I saw it. But I wanted to pick up the Criterion Collection Blu-ray of it. So I kept like not like saving a rewatch.
Yeah.
For when I bought that. And I just still haven't bought it. So I was like, fuck it. I'll just watch it now. And so, yeah, this is the first time I've seen it since it got restored a million years ago. What about you? I assume you haven't been keeping up with the early John Waters films.
I'm looking through the filmography because obviously, like, you know, I know John Waters and I've heard of, you know, Hairspray, Serial Mom, Crybaby, like, but I've never seen any of those movies. Never seen Pecker. Oh my
God, Rowan.
So this is the first John Waters experience I've ever had.
Oh my God. I have two things to say to you. The first one is I'm so sorry, and the second one is you're welcome.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird, and I feel like maybe a lot of people are probably like me, because I can't say, like, I know who John Waters is. He has just a miraculous mustache.
Yes.
Just iconic.
I mean, he's played characters on, like, The Simpsons and shit,
yeah.
and
And, you know, I was saying to X, like, there's no way I haven't watched Drag Race and he hasn't been on. Like, I know he's been a guest on Drag Race. And more recently, and I mean, you know, it might be sacrilege to bring this up during, like, a Pride episode in Pride Month, but stick with me, my Pride people. But Bill Maher did a podcast interview with John Waters. And
oh my God.
Knowing John Waters and what John Waters is about, I was like, I have to watch this. Like, there's no way I can't not watch this. And it was everything I could have imagined. You know, Bill Maher being, what is it? He called left, but we all know is really just far right.
Yeah.
And John Waters.
Center at best.
Center at best, center right. And John Waters just mercilessly making fun of him the entire time. It seems they're friends. I mean, Bill Maher, partier. Everyone knows this, like in the 80s and 90s, heavy club goer. So it seems that they know each other from partying with each other and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you know, John Waters just anything, because Bill Maher, obviously a big voice kind of against a lot of trans issues. And, you know, John Waters just being like, why the hell do you care? Like,
why do you care? Exactly.
It doesn't matter. John Waters, like, very nonchalant about everything, right? He's just like, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Why do you care? So fantastic interview. If you can put up with Bill Maher, it's a fantastic John Waters interview. But saying that, like, that's kind of my only exposure is just John Waters himself,
as
like
himself,
being interviewed. Yeah. So I have to say I was excited, just even though I wasn't familiar with the title or anything. I was just excited to have my first foray into the Waterverse, I guess.
Yeah. And like there's a small part of me that wishes maybe you had done so through one of his later, more like commercial accessible films. But also, like, this is who he is at his heart, even when he's making, like, you know, films for, like, a studio. Yeah. So I'm kind of glad that you start with this, because this is truly, like, this is him in a nutshell.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, with that, you know, why don't we open the freak show? I only got to punch 2 tickets to go in, so let's go in. Let's talk about some multiple Maniacs. So, I'm laughing because the minute I turned this on, I knew. I'm like, this is a Mike pick. This is a Mike pick through and through. So to me, I would think probably for most people, at first I thought it was really going to bug me. It didn't. Once we got into it, it didn't really. But obviously, like you said, like John Waters kind of made these movies, and everything I've kind of read, like he didn't really expect anyone to see these movies.
No.
So, you know, this is like basically shot with like a home video camera in the 70s. And I mean, not the
all of his friends.
Yeah, I shouldn't say home video camera. People weren't really rocking home video cameras like that. But yeah, like cheap cameras. He's doing all of his own editing. I mean, when we get the credits at the beginning, it's literally just, you know, like
a piece of paper
being lifted
being pulled up. Yeah.
So like super low budget. I was trying to think that this is there's no way this isn't the most low budget thing we've reviewed ever.
It's funny because when I was watching it, I was like, I never really looked at it, and it just made me think of when we used to play the budget game back in the early days. And so I looked it up, and the budget was like something like $5,000.
Yeah.
So that is 100% must be the lowest budget of any movie we've ever done.
Yeah, 100%. I was trying to think of other low budget stuff, and yeah, nothing would compare to this, really.
And I don't know what that would be like accounting for inflation now. I'm just gonna look it up.
Yeah, we're gonna punch it into the numbers, put it through the calculators, call the accountants.
We're doing our accounting. $41,425 today, which today is nothing.
Yeah.
Like for a film budget.
Yeah, I that doesn't even get you like the permits, which
Yeah,
This
exactly.
film also no permits, guaranteed.
He did not have any permits. My God, you saw the way that church was lit, and you saw what happened, and there was no way they got permission to do any of this shit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the acting in this is just like very, I don't know another word other than like polarizing. Like it's very, very, not just Divine, but everyone else I find that it's like very drag, what I would think of a drag performance. Like everyone's like, the voices are over exaggerated. Like everything's just really like over the top, almost like pageantry on how they're delivering lines, like the actions they're doing.
Oh yeah, they're like pretty much, if they were in a theater, it's like acting for the back row, like just loud, sort of campy, obviously.
Oh yeah, it's
over the top. Like super affected, like just not trying to make it's like they're all misfits, right? So it's like they're not trying to make it kind of like natural. It's like not going to act in like a studio, we want to win an Oscar sort of way. It's like this is just non-professional actors just like hamming it the fuck up and playing these. I mean, look at these characters though, right? Like, how would you even play these characters other than as over the top, like chewing up every piece of paper that, like, if they had lines written down, would have been written on? Like, it's impossible.
Yeah, there's no other way you would do it, really. I can't think of another way you would do it. And, like, it's just so interesting to see something with, like, so much kind of like passion. Like you can really tell like these guys are having a good time making this and like just having the time of their lives, but like how homemade it feels. Like there's lines read in here where they screw up and then like it's not even edited out, they just start saying the line over again. So you're getting like all this rawness of like sometimes he edits parts but sometimes he doesn't. And I mean, I said this is written, directed by John Waters, but he also does all the editing. Like he did all the stuff for it.
Shot, everything. It's like a fully John Waters production.
Yeah, and like you can see like this, at this time, this like young guy just kind of like grinding his axe and sharpening his blade of the skills he has there. I had written down in my notes, like I know people come to these John Waters movies for Divine.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Divine was kind of like second or third in my mind. I really enjoyed David Lochry's performance as Mr. David. He was my favorite character in this.
He was great, yeah.
The way he read his lines was just like, I don't even know how to describe it. I was like, I've never seen someone deliver lines like this. It's so good. Like I was captivated every time he was talking.
And like his like performance in general and the physicality of it. And also like his crazy hair and his clothes, like just, I mean, again, like Divine is just obviously you don't even need to like talk up Divine because Divine is Divine and literally iconic and legendary, but like there are a lot of performances in this movie that are stunning. I do love that you singled his out because it's so funny. I was watching it and I was like, this actually really reminds me of my friend's husband. Like he actually dresses kind of like him and his hair is similar. Well, the husband has more hair than David, but like he even has like his facial hair is very similar and their mannerisms. And I really need to like message my friend and be like, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but if you haven't, can you please show this to your husband
tell him
that in the most complimentary way possible that Mr. David is him. But also like Mink Stole.
So that was Mink Stole was very good. The next on my list that I really enjoyed was Cookie Mueller playing Cookie Divine. And I thought some of the more difficult stuff next to Divine and Mr. David, because Cookie Divine had a lot of the longer kind of monologue parts and stuff. And she's actually one of the parts where she starts and screws up and then just starts over again. But, I thought like super like cool, campy performance. I mean, there's
and like the whole thing, she has her top off.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I like one of my notes was just like, this movie definitely is not for the Christians.
I can't think of a less Christian movie. The Exorcist is more, well, actually, The Exorcist is very pro-Christian, so I don't know why I'm saying that. That was a bad.
I know what you're saying.
Bad one
though,
to jump
yeah.
into my head. Yeah.
Christians would rather appreciate Satan in some sort of exorcism movie than probably enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is like exploitation at its peak, obviously, or its beginnings. I shouldn't. Yeah. This is like a prime example, and especially, I mean, we all know, like, pick an exploitation movie from forever ago, like a Last House on the Left or A Hills Have Eyes or anything like that. But, think about like those had budgets. Like this is just like pure no budget, grimy exploitation that I could see, like, depending on who you're watching this with, it could be very uncomfortable to watch with, or the viewer may be very uncomfortable.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, it's so funny because it definitely is like a grindhouse movie if they ever thought that it would play in a theater, which they didn't, which is why everything is so over the top and like insane. Like, can you imagine sitting in a theater for how long was that church scene? It had to be like 7 minutes of Divine and Mink Stole screaming and having a rosary job. Like, excuse me. Yeah, watching that in mixed company would definitely be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I mean, Mike's being nice about it. I mean, yeah, Divine literally has a rosary shoved in her anus and is just fucked with this rosary while this story of Christ being beaten and
the Stations of Christ and being crucified.
Yeah, is going on. So you're getting like that imagery with this imagery, so this imagery of violence, which I thought was like very interesting, with the imagery of violence kind of mixed with the imagery of this like queer eroticism going on at the same time. And, obviously people way more eloquent than me. See, I'm not even saying eloquent properly. Eloquent. People can talk way more eloquent than me about that kind of stuff. But, like, I thought it was very interesting. I'm like, oh, yeah, like, this kind of makes sense of this, like, especially for the time period of the 70s, like, like, queer love and queer sex and stuff like that, like, is looked in normal society in the 70s, like, as violence, as something wrong, something bad, something illegal. And I just thought, comparisons of it are really, really interesting. And I mean, this whole story, which, do I think there's a lot of like meaning in this story? I do. I think there's a lot of like under the cover type stuff going on. But like the meat of the story is like pretty wild. It's pretty out there. There's barely a story hanging on. Like they'll have all these plot lines that just kind of get dropped or whatever. But like we said, these guys were just, doing this for fun. To me, I was like, they probably didn't have a storyboard or something. They were probably just going scene from scene. And by the time you got an hour into shooting this, they probably forgot what they talked about at the beginning. Yeah. And they're like, whatever, we'll just add this stuff in. But, like, I thought it was interesting, like, especially the intro scenes where we have kind of like, the unhip, the square, the normal people. Yeah. And it's like, it's really like this, like, queer revenge story, right? Of like...
Oh, 100%. Well, I mean, like, it's very much like they're making a spectacle of it.
Yeah,
right. Because it's so shocking. Like, oh my God, look, it's two men and they're kissing.
Yeah, one, they're putting it up against, like something that is shocking. Like, oh, look at this guy puke in a bucket and then eat the puke.
Eat it.
And then the next one's like, oh, this is just two guys kissing. And, most people are like reacting worse to the two guys kissing.
Yeah.
But I like this kind of like revenge of like, as you straight people, you like normies, you square people are like staring at us, judging us. And then we're flipping and now the net's on you. We're robbing you. We're killing you. And like, now you're our entertainment. Like, this is our like revenge, our violence against you.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a beautiful, brilliant. I mean, I'm saying beautiful. It's also
depressing.
Listen,
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's depressing. It's shocking. It's hysterical, but it's such a amazing scene to me because it does encapsulate all of the themes of the movie and the like sort of thrust of it, which is exactly what you said. It's like flipping the spectacle of, you know, the like misfits and outsiders against the like straight people, and yeah, the revenge. I think it's just brilliant. It's one of my favorite opening scenes.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I kept thinking, like, in a lot of this stuff where kind of these acts of violence are committed on, you know, in this film, like the public, the general public. But I'm like, okay, you know, if this was Chuck Norris and like a revenge movie, like we wouldn't bat an eye at this stuff of like this violence being committed. But because of who's committing this violence, we're like, oh, that's weird. Like that, you know, like that's not right.
Yeah. All of a sudden it's an issue.
Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, we might as well talk about it now. You brought up Divine. Obviously, Divine is the star of this, the star, kind of the focal point of John Waters, all his early movies.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I read, I think died right before Hairspray came out, I think.
Yeah, it was like
kind of wasn't
filming.
there for the more commercial stuff.
Yeah, because Hairspray really is like the first, like the late 70s, early 80s films are like sort of a transition period where there's a bit more of a budget, and like John Waters is, you know, a great director.
Yeah.
If you watch this, obviously you might not think that, depending on your tolerance for like very shot on video, cheapy, on the fly, DIY, renegade filmmaking. But like, you know, it was when he was really kind of like finessing his trash cinema a bit.
Yeah.
And then Hairspray was really like, to me, the first, you know, because you had a lot of like names in it, right?
Yeah.
And it was more polished. It had a budget. It had like a lot of rock music on the soundtrack, etc.
It had Ricky
I mean, obviously,
Lake.
it's so kind of enshrined in culture that they made a remake of it and like a musical.
I didn't realize the people in Hairspray. I just want to say
it's wild.
Vitamin C was in Hairspray.
Mm-hmm. As a teenager, yep.
Ricky Lake, Debbie Harry, Divine,
Yep.
Sonny Bono,
Yeah.
Jerry Stiller, Mink Stoll, obviously bringing the people from, you know, his early work
days,
into that, which I love to see. Yeah, like
oh yeah, Mink Stoll has been like, I think probably in every movie he's ever done, except for maybe one or two.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like, I mean, listen, the worst part is a lot of the people that he worked with in his early movies, they died.
Yeah.
Like Divine. Like Divine was actually probably one of the last ones. Like Cookie Mueller died. Oh my God, it was in the late 80s. I don't know if it was before Divine or after. I can't remember, but you know, same thing with like Edith Massey and a lot of other people in these movies. Like they were in all of his movies and then they weren't. And it's not because he was in, you know, kind of a more polished studio setting. It was because unfortunately they were all dead, which obviously these are like misfits and like queer people and stuff. So that happened, especially in the 80s. You know, this is like whole communities of people, especially like artists, that just were taken way too early.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, I was going to say Divine, probably like the most talked about, like not just this movie, but everything, obviously, like her presence and, you know, that early, I don't want to say early drag, because I mean, you know, drag's been going on since Shakespeare, but like,
yes,
I think early kind of what we think of as like modern drag.
Yeah, and certainly like in pop culture.
Yeah, in pop culture. Yeah. I was going to say really anyone that wants to, which is funny because I didn't look at it till after. In one of my notes, especially obviously the ending of this film, where I wrote, I was like, Divine kind of being propped up like Godzilla here. And I thought it was funny because then, you know, I go to log it in the letterbox and I'm like, well, I gotta see, like, has Mike seen this before? Who's seen this? Who I know talked about it? And then I saw Willow actually has a whole thing written up. I think she has a link to a Patreon article, which if there is one, go pay for it, go read it. But Willow talking about Divine as, you know, this Godzilla figure in these films. Just like, not only like devouring as an actor the scene and everything around it, but like like I said, obviously John Waters looked at her as that kind of presence because of the ending of this film, where
towering over a city,
over the city, people running, the police, you know, it's all people that play other roles in this. They're all very hippie looking, but their uniforms looking very much like the 50s Godzilla, like Japanese police, just like trembling, holding the rifles. And I was just like, yeah, this is...
Yeah, and it's like it's more like a kind of army-looking police, not like the cops that would have been around Baltimore where they shot it, you know?
Yeah, because they don't look like the cops that we see earlier that are trying to, like, exploit the sex workers and get money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, I thought that was just so cool because throughout the whole movie, like I said, I had that note written before that kind of end scene where I'm just like, she's such this larger than life persona, and it's so hard because even people that I really enjoy, like David Lockery as Mr. David and stuff, like your performance just kind of like gets sucked up in this like divine persona and just like so confident, and I really enjoyed it. And not that at times I wasn't confused by it, because I will say there was a lot of this, you know, I was doing a lot of the, Mike, is this even a damn horror movie? What's going on? Like, is this just a crime movie? Because, I mean, obviously the horror in this is really it's not until like the third act that we kind of get into the real madness of it all and cannibalism and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I just think it's really cool. Another note I had, I actually really did like the musical cues in this.
I was like, Ro better bring up the music in this because it's bangers.
Yeah, so I'm interested because I don't really know. Like I had read, I know originally he had used a lot of Elvis and stuff. I had read that when Criterion took it over, like they didn't have the rights to any of that music and they weren't allowed to use it. So Criterion had replaced the music. It sounded to me like so the version I watched it on Plex, and I'm going to assume that more than likely that's probably the Criterion version. Like most of the streamers that I saw had the Criterion intro.
It would have been that restoration, yeah.
So, and then plus the music to me didn't sound like Elvis of that time, but not Elvis. But yeah,
it was very much like kind of rockabilly.
Yeah, which I
like
love.
early Elvis. Yeah,
you're winning me on the rockabilly music.
Oh yeah, always. Honestly, that's like I know I'm like a pop girly and stuff, but like literally since I was a kid, my weakness has been like surf rock and rockabilly.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same way. So I understand that. And yeah, I really like the musical drops in this. Another just random note I had, I really liked how, I'm trying to think of the character. Who was Mr. David's... Was it Mink? Was that like his lover or whatever?
No, that's Bonnie. Mink was the lesbian lover.
Okay, yeah, Bonnie. I just like Bonnie, like instead of saying anything about anything sexual, she just kept saying committing the act. She's like, oh, we'll commit the act all night. I can commit the act so good. I like that. I thought that was super funny.
Oh my God. It's like, it's so funny though, because like the fucking dialogue and the vocabulary that the characters use in this is completely insane. That being one of them. Another one that I loved was, hang on, now let me pull it up. You can edit this down for... So, the other phrase that, like, for just whatever reason stuck out to me was Mink Stole over and over being obsessed with, like, I've always wanted to perform extreme unction on somebody.
Yeah.
Right? And she says that a lot. And I actually had to Google it because I thought that she was mangling, like, execution.
Yeah.
And then I looked it up, and extreme unction is actually, like, a like last rites sort of thing.
Oh, interesting.
In like Catholicism or like anointing of the sick. But obviously she does mean it as, and I kept thinking that because I knew that, like, you know, at the end they kill everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I never Googled this before. Like, I just assumed, and then I looked it up and I'm like, no, so she wants to like perform the last rites, but like she shoots them and then does it, you know what I mean? And it's like the vocabulary is just so fucked up and weird and so John Waters.
Yeah.
Like Ming Stoll just walking around in that fucking insane outfit going like, I want to perform the last rites, i.e. I want to like murder somebody.
I was laughing with Exilia because I was telling her how like Divine's daughter in it, Cookie Divine, is dating the weatherman or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire movie, I thought he was just a weatherman. Like at a network cable thing, and until I started reading, and I'm like, oh yeah, like the weathermen, like the
revolutionary group.
Revolutionary, you know, some people say terrorist, some people don't. Like this like revolutionary group. And I was like, oh, that makes way more sense. Because I couldn't understand.
Thank you for your service of telling us the weather every night.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Divine, just big fan of weathermen.
Yeah, she did this like big old monologue about it and everything, right? Like,
felt like a real idiot on that one.
No, but I feel like it's so funny. So not that I'm going to call you like straight or square now, but like if you like kind of transport this to back, you know, in the context from which it sprang, like there was probably like if some square person did watch this movie, they would not have a clue what the fuck
100%
they were talking about.
100%.
Like speaking in code, you know?
Yeah, and it's a code that I'm not supposed to understand, obviously, so I can't get mad at that.
No, but you would have, I feel like if you were in that time, you would know because that's the type of person that you are.
Yeah, I mean,
you would have known. I know this about you, so don't feel like a square. You would have known in 1970.
I like that you have faith
they were talking
in me like
about.
That. I like that you have faith. I feel good about myself that you have faith in me like that.
You should.
Yeah, I mean, what else do you have? All I have is kind of that third act where we're the descent into madness. But do you have any other notes you want to...
There was one thing I did want to mention that I find I actually forgot about it. And when it popped up, I remembered, oh my God, like this is in this movie. And I lost my mind. The moment when Divine is trying to gaslight Mr. David into believing that he killed Sharon Tate.
Yes.
Like, that is insane. And then I never looked it up back in the day, and I just thought it was funny that, like, literally, because I was like 1970, they would have done this right after it came out. But no, that happened while they were filming. And they did not know. Yeah, John Waters said, I had to rewrite it while we were filming because they caught Charles Manson after we filmed like the gaslighting scene, and the paper that he picks up and sees like, you know, Manson and all these other people arrested is the actual paper that they found out in. John Waters is like, I still own this newspaper. So how insane is that? Like it's like super literally the exact moment it's happening, they're already making a joke about it.
And also kind of predicting the future, because at the very end, I thought Divine's killing of the couple in the car, very Son of Sam.
Yes.
Which would happen like 5 years later. And I was like, oh,
I did write that. I was like, this her becoming like an urban legend, like serial killer. Yeah.
This like Dave Berkowitz type figure. I was like, how he
going after the like lover's lane. Yeah.
Kind of eerie that they were like right on that. But yeah, I mean, like we said, this third act is where the horror like really gets in. Obviously, like you said, like pretty much our whole cast dies. Divine goes on her rampage. The multiple maniacs, really the only maniac is Divine.
The only one that counts, right?
Yeah. Even like I wasn't expecting cannibalism. Divine just like eating Mr. David's like lungs and heart and everything. You know, and I love the low budget of it where like she stabs him once and then she has the full
innards in
her hand. And I was like, what is she? Exilia was saying to me because she was sitting around me when this part. She's like, oh, she's like, good. I guess it's a good thing it's not color. because it'd be real messy.
Well, probably one of the many reasons why they shot in black and white, other than just pure budget concerns.
No one. I don't think anyone would ever play this at that time if this was in color.
No.
But yeah, I mean, that's all the like real notes that I have on this. That like I think we've hit a lot of the stuff.
Oh, and yes, okay. I just want to say the one other, just because it's so funny, because I was like picturing if Colton was here, he'd be like, how does this fit into the umbrella? Besides the murders and, insanity. It is also a monster movie. Because Divine turns into a...
What am I talking about? I haven't talked about this glorious
I'm
scene.
like, are you really just going to ignore this elephant in the room, Rowan?
You mean lobster?
The lobster in the room, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you want to describe what happens here?
I mean, there's not much to describe. They essentially commit the Manson murders. Everybody's dead except for Divine, and then
giant.
How big would you say? 10-foot?
Yeah, I mean it's
lobster.
Big.
Yeah, bigger than Divine, which is saying something because Divine is a very large human being. Yeah, just strolls up and assaults her sexually assaults her, and then she goes on another rampage through the streets. And becomes the monster. It's like she kind of that's her transition from.
Well, and there's also, I can't remember if it's with the lobster or in the church scene, but there's another, I thought there was pretty powerful conversation in this where Divine talks about this isn't the first time that I've been raped, but
that would have been around the church, because remember, it's right before she goes in the church that she gets jumped.
And I thought that was interesting. Me and Exilia were briefly talking about me being straight white guy. I'm like, oh, how does this, Exilia, I need your sociological brain on this. But just talking about, in a lot of queer film, I was asking about sex workers are really commonly used and how this is intertwined. And we talked about in this time period, a lot of sex workers would be part of the queer community, and those are the kind of jobs they'd find themselves in. And obviously, rape being a big part of this, and almost the sadness of Divine having this admittance that this has happened before. The cops shaking them down has happened before. This is just kind of,
and that happens right afterwards to underscore how they're not protected by the cops; they're in fact preyed upon by them.
Exactly. But yeah, the lobster is wild. I was reading, John Waters said, when asked why, he essentially just said that he had a postcard that was from Rhode Island, and it just was a giant lobster in the sky, and then he was like, yeah, let's have this giant lobster monster, and then I
mean, listen, then Divine becomes, the Godzilla entity. Also, I was thinking it had shades of Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
It's if Godzilla turned into Frankenstein's monster, because it's kind of full of sadness and pathos.
Yeah.
Like the end of Frankenstein, yeah.
And then, I said that was all the notes. That wasn't all the notes. I did have one more where I was going to say that, having watched this now, it's interesting that I can really see, I could really see the through line into modern cinema from this, because I was thinking, obviously the first person I thought about was Rob Zombie. I was like, there's no way these films aren't highly regarded by Rob Zombie. That a lot of these, I was thinking about Cookie, and there's a lot of Sherry Moon performances going on here.
100%. I'm gonna say it's actually funny that you bring that up, because I think that were Cookie Mueller still alive in the 2000s when Rob Zombie started making films, there is no way that he wouldn't have tried to track Cookie down and have her in one of his movies. No way. I can guarantee you he would have had a role for her.
100%. Well, and to me, I mean, this is I think if anyone would kind of question this, I mean, obviously this is listed as horror, and when you look at anything from Letterboxd, IMDb, in the genres, it's horror. But if anyone was really questioning, I was like, this is just as much of horror as where I see this as a direct influence with Zombie is The Devil's Rejects. I was like, this is, almost the exact story of the Devil's Rejects of
criminals on the run.
Criminals on the run. They're misfits. Like, they don't conform to society, and they're wreaking havoc on all the squares, the normal people. And, who's after them? The law, society, the rules, and they're
straight people.
Yeah. And I was just like, any of these, very modern, kind of revenge, we're the strangers, we're the weirdos.
We're the weirdos, mister. Yeah.
I was like, there's no way John Waters isn't in the mind of people. So, are you comfortable going into rating this?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Landing the plane?
Let's land us.
All right, plane landed.
Let's land the plane that has the little, pew-pews trying to take down Divine, but nobody can because she's a force of nature.
So if you're new to the program, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Mike, what would you give 1970s multiple Maniacs?
I was, bouncing back and forth. This is sort of the hardest part every episode for me because I feel the same way when I'm on Letterboxd, which I love that I've been using a lot more the last couple years, but it also gives me anxiety because I'm like, I know people, I have friends who just will put a movie and they won't give it a star rating. They'll just give it a heart if they like it and then write a nice review. But I'm like, when I first started using it, just when we first started recording, I was like, I have to be fair and I can't love everything. And sometimes it's a bad movie, but I really love it and stuff like that. And it just it paralyzed me with anxiety. But now I just go giving everything 4 stars if I want, or 4.5 stars and loving it. And I'm just like, you should see this movie. So I was thinking, in Jean Waters. I was about to say oeuvre, and then my brain started wanting to turn everything French. In John Waters' catalog, this is obviously not his best movie. It's not his most polished movie. It's not the best story, but there's something so raw about it and purely John Waters. And like you said, you can see the through line to stuff that came out later in the 70s, the 80s, and just right through to today. And I was gonna give it a yay, but I think I'm gonna slay it because I fucking love it. I think it's a banger. And in the context of we're watching this for Pride Month again, and in the context of what is happening in the world right now with everybody's rights to exist essentially trying to be stripped away. This movie was such an act of rebellion and giant fuck you to the status quo, people in power, cops, social oppression, everything. And I just think it's actually really an important movie, and I think it's a banger, so I'm going to give it a slay. Honestly, yep. What about you?
Yeah, let's get to the most important part. What does the straight guy think about it?
Now, listen, you're very important.
Listen,
okay?
I'm ready for the mob to come after me. But listen, I think this is one of those movies, and we've had a lot of these over the years, where I'll say now, my rating came up after talking about it where I thought it was. This is a movie that I may enjoy talking about more than I enjoy watching. I think there's so much stuff to pull at, and I just think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, and there is interesting stuff in this film-wise that I like, but I can't really say this was necessarily my jam. So I think I'm gonna come in at an okay. I know Mike rolling his eye.
Rolling my eyes.
I was gonna give it an A, and I can't.
Girl, what the fuck?
I came up on an okay. I don't know if I'll ever watch this again, but I'm glad I did. I think it's important. I think people should watch it. I think even if people that watch it think it's not a good movie, it's one of those movies you should watch, because I do think it's important to film it, not just queer history, Pride Month, all that stuff, but also for film, it's important.
Mm-hmm.
John Waters is an important figure in film in general, just especially when you're talking about independent filmmakers on the come up. And I mean, like we said, Hairspray, stuff like that. These are major movies that a guy that made this went on to make that. And I just think there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about with this. This isn't, when we're giving a rating the movies, I find one of us will always, we're like, oh, it's such a great movie. Like, have some beers, you got the people over, put it on. To me, this is where you have your nerdy friends over, where that want to really get in the weeds, talk about some sociology, talk about this stuff. I'd watch this movie again in that setting, no problem. I just don't think this would be one that I'm like, oh, it's, Saturday night. What am I throwing on to quell my boredness? Fair.
I literally, as someone who regularly puts on Hairspray or Serial Mom, or Crybaby, this is not something I'm going to put on every 5 minutes. I totally understand that. Yeah.
So, I mean, you know what? A slaying okay. I feel like we're going to average out pretty good on that one.
Yeah. We don't have anybody else dragging it down. So.
Yeah, that's right. I would fear for you with everyone else. So.
Oh, I don't fear for me. Don't you worry.
Maybe I was the kindest person to have on.
I don't fear for me at all.
So we told you what we thought, and we asked you what you thought about this film. And I have some bad news, Mike. Nobody wrote in on any platform about multiple maniacs. Now, I wonder if maybe there's more people, because I kind of felt like the outlier. I kind of felt like maybe, I haven't seen a John Waters movie. I'm an idiot kind of thing. But I'm wondering is there maybe more people like me that haven't looked at this yet, or...
Oh, there definitely are, yeah.
Yeah, maybe more so than there are people that have been into the depths of these early John Waters. So hopefully you're listening to this and you're
I mean, even at his most mainstream, he's still a very cult filmmaker, right?
Yeah, so you know what? Go check it out. But I know one person that saw it. So why don't we head on over to the Horrific Hotline, because I know Horrorhound Nicholas did watch this, and let's see what he has to say about it.
All right. I'm already sorry to you, Mike, but this, multiple maniacs was not my cup of tea, I have to be honest. I know John Walters from... mostly from Hairspray, though I have to admit I have not seen his Hairspray movie. I only know is it 2006 or 7?
Oh my god, not
the John Travolta one?
Version,
not the fucking
which
remake.
I really liked at the time, but haven't rewatched it. And from Pink Flamingos, which, just like Multiple Maniacs, is not my cup of tea. I'm sure there is a huge crowd that likes, or a moderate crowd that likes these movies because they're so highly rated, and I can't see that if you like this kind of movies, those are really up there. It's just there is the plot itself is way too loose, and it's all over the place, with long sequences of people just driving or walking around, and that mixed with some weird scenes of eating puke, or this weird sex scene in the church intercut with a Stations of the Cross segment that looks like a school play. Yeah, it's really just not my kind of movie. I am happy that I watched it and that I gave another movie of the director a chance, and I am sure that I will at least at some point watch his original Hairspray movie, but I'm not that interested in watching anything of him anytime soon, though I do like him as his small role in both the Chucky TV show and the Chucky's Baby or Seed of Chucky movie, where he plays this disgusting Hollywood reporter. not sure if you have seen those things recently, but he's in there, and I do like him in that.
Okay, fair. It's to be expected.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say divorce.
I mean, and he kind of said what I said too earlier, that like John Waters as a personality himself is like very kind of endearing, and he's very charming and very personable. I did see he did ask in his emails, because he obviously was saying, you know, how this must have been like very a bit influential and very controversial for the time and stuff, but he wanted to know, are we general John Waters fans? Which, I mean, I think we've already answered that kind of in the first experiences, but he wanted to know, and this is towards you, Mike, because I've already said this is my first John Waters, but like, would you recommend a John Waters movie that's a bit more accessible to people?
Oh, for sure. I would start with Serial Mom, probably.
And I feel like everyone loves. I think I own Serial Mom. I'm pretty sure. I've just never seen it.
Very frequently over the last 20 years, when we have movie nights, and I mean, I'm talking like with people that I don't normally watch movies with. I will usually bring my DVD of Serial Mom, or like we'll find it somewhere online, because it is a really good entryway. It's still got that like just absolutely ballsy, weird skewering of like middle America pep and like horrible values. But like it's got like a much more mainstream cast. It's really polished. It's really colorful. It looks great. Insane soundtrack. Like, I would start with Serial Mom. It's definitely more accessible, but has the beating heart of John Waters. It's not quite as weird. The weirdness is kind of like, you know, sanded down a little bit. You could probably go for like, I mean, listen, like Pink Flamingos is also a bit too much for a lot of people. I'd go Serial Mom, honestly, followed maybe by Crybaby, because, you know, it's got a huge star in it. He Who Shall Not Be Named, but is really good in the movie. So yeah, I would say, Nicholas, just and to anybody, like, dip your toes into that movie first, for sure. Maybe I'll even suggest it one day in the next foreseeable future. I don't know.
Oh, there we go. Well, yeah, you never know. So yeah, if you want to send us a voicemail like Nicholas, you can do so by just emailing us at itsleyspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can also just message us on, anything, Instagram, like social media. Any way that you can get us a voice message or a voice note or whatever, we'll figure out a way to play it, and we'll get it played on there. And if you're not doing so, you can also follow us on social media. We're on Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, Slasher, Letterboxd, Bluesky, Threads. I can't even think anymore. I'm sure we're on more. TikTok. If there's a social media, we're probably on it at It Slays Podcast. And if you want to support the show, like our horror hounds, Holly, Nicholas, Patrick, Mark, Steven, Dan, Brian, Trevor, and James, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams, hosted by Jill, and get episodes of this here main show 48 hours early, be sure to head on over to patreon.com, It Slays Podcast, and choose whatever tier works best for you. Now, this is normally where, like, Colton or Jill are like, Rowan, how about that playlist? And then I say, I gotta check it out. I mean, there's not much of a score in this, but there is music to this. Maybe I'll...
Oh, yeah, there's songs.
Maybe I'll find a little ditty to remind us of some multiple Maniacs and add it. And if I do, you can go to Spotify and look up the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media that I just mentioned, go into the bio, click the Linktree link. It'll take you directly there. We upload scores or licensed music from horror movies we review, horror movies we love, or just iconic horror movies in general. So follow that. We update it regularly and get your spooky music on, because why the hell not? And last but not least is to announce our upcoming episode. We're out of Pride Month now, and it's Jill's pick. And Jill didn't send a voicemail in. She wasn't creative like that to at least, she's like, I'm making Rowan do the most work possible. So she did say her pick and said, Rowan, you got to announce it for me. And I'm kind of excited for this. I feel like everybody will be kind of excited for this because this is one that I feels like for our age kind of iconic. So Jill's pick is the 2006 remake To the Hills Have Eyes. So yeah, get that into your eye holes for next episode and we will be back. As always, thank you for all the support and I hope you guys have an awesome rest of the Pride Month. I hope your Pride Month was fabulous and fantastic and everything you wanted it to be. We love doing our Pride picks every year. So thank you for supporting us. I am your humble host, Rowan.
Thanks, it's Mike.
See you later.